how many languages do you actually speak?
Spanish, French, Italian, Danish, Swedish, Croatian, Russian, German, and English.
How did you actually become a polyglot?
10 hours a day doing Duolingo, then talk to your AI friend. Never listen to the language. Guys, don't do that.
Welcome back to Evolve. Today we are speaking with Will John, a polyglot and professional footballer. Will, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Of course, thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Do you want to show off a little bit of those? Maybe introduce yourself if you've got enough time to go through all nine.
I mean, yeah, and what I could start with the East. Vi ne pričate hrvatski, jel? Ne?
Ne.
Ništa. Ok, dobro. Če mogu govoriti по-русски, если легче?
Нет. Хорошо. Как дела?
Non, je sais bien que tu parles français.
Ouais.
Vous deux?
On parle français.
Lui, c'est un français. Moi, je suis anglais, mais j'ai appris le français.
Ok, con.
En fait, j'ai commencé à l'école secondaire, ici en Angleterre.
Ok. Ok, bien. Ça, c'est les français. Espagnol.
Buenos
okay.
días.
Buenos días.
¿Qué tal?
Todo bien.
Muy bien.
Como siempre.
Pero mucha gente habla español en los Estados Unidos también, ¿no?
Sí, ovviamente es un idioma muy importante. Possiamo parlare in italiano? Almeno puoi capire un po' di italiano. Questo
bene.
Sicuramente. Bene, sì, bene.
È una lingua bellissima, italiano.
È una lingua bellissima.
Non posso parlare l'italiano, ma...
Parli bene. Questo è abbastanza bene. Also wir können natürlich auch auf Deutsch sprechen.
Ja.
Also, ja. Und, also dansk. Det kan du ikke forstå. Det tror jeg ikke.
That's Danish though, right?
Det er dansk, man. Det er dansk, for helvede. The Danes can understand the Swedes.
Okay.
Swedes cannot understand the Danes. Swedish is, jag pratar svenska.
We can feel the passion there. I've clicked on this video. I want to be, a polyglot.
Mm-hmm.
What are the steps that you would recommend to someone who wants to follow in your footsteps?
Wow. So there's a big difference between if you want to be a polyglot or if you just want to learn one other language, because they are very separate. Now, starting off, if you just want to learn another language, what I recommend is to spend 10 hours a day doing Duolingo, then talk to your AI friend for the next 20 minutes. Never listen to the language. No, of course, guys, don't do that. Okay. Apps are a new phenomenon on Earth. Okay. People have been learning languages for a very, very long time. One of my favorite polyglots is a woman named Kato Lomb. She's a Hungarian. She was a translator, very, very outspoken woman. She wrote a book. It's called How I Learn Languages. She's one of my favorite for a lot of reasons, because she's kind of no nonsense. She'll tell people, and I agree with this, if you don't have 12 hours a week to learn a language, it may not be the right time for you to start. That's if you want to speak. If you want to dabble and play a little Duolingo and learn I am an apple that eats a dragon, go for it. That's fine. But understand that you're just playing a game. That's what it is. Have fun with it. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong. Just don't confuse the two. And I think that's where people have the problem. So if you want to learn a language, it's quite clear that most people understand comprehensible input, at least for the people who don't know what it is. I know people, fans of you guys, channel and podcast probably understand, but it's an important key element. The reason for this is not necessarily because it mimics how we learned as kids, but also because it gets you more exposure to a language. And so I want to start with an overarching principle. The more exposure you have to a language in context, the easier it will be for you to learn on the long game. I know everyone, if you've clicked on this video for the how to learn a language in 7 days, I'm sorry, or in 3 months, I'm sorry. That's, while possible, if you have nothing else to do in life, I think that's possible. You need to have as much exposure to the language as you can at the level that you're currently at, right? So big mistakes are, I've already discussed the apps. I won't go in on them. I probably will still talk trash on them later, but there's no need for you to watch the news on day 1 of Spanish class. All right. Let's leave that alone. Okay. There are things that are made for you, right? And bring it back to Kato Lomb. We have graded readers now, right? So reading, listening, and watching are some of the main aspects. Writing less so at the beginning. In my opinion, you do need to do some of this, but you need to spend a hell of a lot of time listening, watching, preferably, of people talking and doing things that you can understand. Agua, okay? Agua. Like, it's going to be hard for you not to understand. The problem is we live in a society where people want to be rushed. Everything wants to be rushed. And if you don't let this repeat, because no one likes to repeat anything, the reason the apps and things everyone, if you're familiar with the book called The Dopamine Revolution, we just want to go to the next thing. Well, you need to repeat. If I told you agua once, maybe, if I take the agua and I smash you on the head.
Every day.
But not even every day. I think it's the emotion. It's the emotional aspect of that. Your ability to tie emotion into your learning will allow you to do it, right? If someone's beating you and punching you in the face and they keep saying this word that means stop, right? In a language, the chances of you ever forgetting that word, R0. You will remember as he's pummeling you in the face that is the word for stop. All right. And so you have to elicit emotion and you have to have repetition. If you do those two things and you have to be able to understand the context, that's the beginning. Right. So that's for someone who wants to learn. If you want to be a polyglot, then you need to have patience because you need to focus on one language for a long enough period of time to reach, I don't really like the standard things, but let's call it B1, B2. If you can reach this B1, B2, you have less of a chance of forgetting the language. You have more of a chance of just going rusty, right? And so when you pick it up, it'll come maybe 1 day, 2 days, a week. And so you have to lay out a structure for yourself. And that's what I do. I mean, I'm giving you guys both options just so people have an understanding of what, I mean, if you want to go deeper into like what I would do on day 1 to month 1, etc., we can, but that's how you would kind of need to look at things as an overarching strategy.
Do you think it's possible to become a polyglot without moving to the country where they speak the language?
I'm literally proof of that. Yes, there's now in modern times, Kato Lom, it's hilarious. In her book, she's going, make sure you find a good dictionary. We have every dictionary that's ever been made in all this. We have now in our phone. There's no excuse for you to do that. You don't need to be there. You have tutors. Excuse time is over if you're trying to learn a new language. You don't have an excuse. What is the excuse? What are you talking about? Like, okay, if you don't have time, that's kind of on you, but that can be, that can be managed. That's adaptable. But as far as needing to move to France, those days are done.
Especially if it's a blessing being in somewhere like the UK or the US. I mean, I got to fluency level in French before doing my year abroad in Reunion Island, down to that obsession of every time I met a French person, il y avait pas de choix. Like, we're going to speak in French.
Exactly.
I tell people I don't speak English.
There you go.
And then you're forced into that. I've never spent more than a couple of weeks, I guess, in a Spanish-speaking country. But if there's someone who's Spanish, sé que vamos a hablar en español,
That's it.
No podemos elegir. Inglés no es una opción. We're going to speak because that's how you improve. So that's the blessing, again, going back to living in a diverse country. Tenemos que aprovechar. You have to. So.
The discipline aspect is tough for everyone. At the one end, you can say that there are no excuses. At the other end, I know that our brains are being attacked every single second, every time we pick up our phone. You're under attack. Something is calling for you to do something else. And isn't that amazing? Though, like if you take a second and believe, you might have picked up the phone to just check an email. You are watching crazy knockout videos you've seen the soccer, the guy went to a moon, like this, and you put the phone down and then you realize, oh yeah, I didn't think didn't even check the email. What? Like, what are we doing? That's a massive problem. So discipline is needed. You do need to have some discipline. The drive, the more you want it, the easier it will be. But we teach our students about eliminating. If you can eliminate, there's so much noise, there's so much information, so many different things. If we can just reduce the chatter, all right, and just have, okay, if I can just engage with this content here today, put it down, and I have a plan for tomorrow, then you are making forward progress without having to second guess, to concern yourself, to try and get the next heart on the app, to get the points. And your original goal was to learn French. Why do you care about your 30-day streak? What do you, that's not the point. The point is for you after 30 days to be better at speaking, or reading, or whatever your goal is, to read this book, to watch this movie. So yeah, discipline plays a key role, but I think everyone should be aware of kind of eliminating the noise as much as they can.
So I made some notes based on some of your videos of key areas that I think stood out, and discipline was one of those. I wanted to ask, how did you build that discipline into your routine? I know we'll probably mention that in the video about your football career as well. But I mean, for me, discipline was instilled a lot with the West African and Asian values. Did that come into play at all as well with the kind of Nigerian upbringing?
100%. I mean, yes. Yeah, that discipline plays a huge role. You understand that the right thing to do would be to do your work first and enjoy later.
How does that actually translate into a language learning routine?
Oh, if you want a routine, then that's very simple. I mean, obviously, like I said with Kato Lom, if you don't have 12 hours, then forget it. I think that can be reduced now because of what we have with our tools to something like 8 to 10, right? That if you don't have 8 to 10 hours a week, which is barely above an hour a day, all right, then you shouldn't do it. In the morning is when I suggest to everyone that they should be at least starting to learn a language. You can check all the studies, right? Some people can learn at night after they've done. Most people are expending energy throughout the day and then potentially trying to fit in language learning when they can after this, unfocused. If you want to understand a proper routine, you need to understand, and this is what we do for people in our artificial immersion course. We make them understand the rules of deep work. Deep Work by Cal Newport. It's a book. The phone has to go out of the room. You have to be uninterrupted. And this is a skill because what you're training with your phone is to be distracted. And what you're training without it is concentration. 30 minutes to an hour in the morning. Generally speaking, I like to make sure that that's your comprehensible input, that you're taking something in. Later in the day, it's definitely fine in the evening, etc., to be watching something on Netflix that you don't care about or stuff like that. But the bulk of your learning has to happen, for me, before your energy has been expended. And so that's the problem. People are trying to fit language learning in rather than making it part of their lives. The routine is to change your life, not to make it a hobby. Make it part of your life. There's no other way to do it. You forced yourself to, in these conversations, I only speak, hablo solo español. Okay, but yeah, that's the point of the routine. It's got to change. You have to change. All right. It's not no wishy-washy stuff. It'll make you take long. You might get there. You'll get there, but who wants to learn a language over 15 years?
But I really appreciate that. Even for example, what was the term you used for like the Netflix? When it's not the comprehensible input, it's just, is that passive learning? What do you refer to that as?
Yeah. It's passive learning. Yeah. It's passive.
For me, like I was a big gamer in the past. I replayed Pokemon in French and Spanish.
There you go.
But then that was part of the routine. So even though it sounds strange that Pokemon was a routine part of my language learning, but if every night you did, whether it's like watch the news or did something routinely, you're going to see the gains.
Yep.
Whereas if it's like, oh, I watched a movie once in French, you're not going to get that. And for me, it was actually the news. When I was doing French at university, we had a course called Advanced Oral Competency. We had to listen to the news and then provide a summary of that.
There you go.
And at the start, that was so difficult. So I gave myself the challenge of every day. This wasn't just a once in a while thing. This every day when I got home, news goes on in French.
Yeah.
And then at the start, it was really, really difficult. But after, I guess, 2 semesters of doing that, I could just understand 90%.
Yeah.
But there was a discipline in that passive learning still. So.
Definitely. Yeah. And that's the thing, is that people don't give that a chance, right? You said 2 semesters. That's roughly a year, right? And people to have the discipline to do that, it's almost effortless after you've done it, right? Yes. The initial charge of you having to sit and watch the news and, your comprehension may be between 60, maybe it's 70%, maybe it's 80%, who knows? But as you do that, it's the repetition of also the same types of material. They're going to say some of the same things. They're going to introduce themselves the same. You're going to be introduced to those words, those key elements over and over again. And if you do that, you do eventually, it does come out of you. That's one of the crazy things about using it. And we haven't touched on the big no grammar versus grammar debate, and at least where I stand is at the beginning, ease up on the grammar. Obviously, if you want to have a superficial glance, which is what we teach students, by all means, but don't do the thing that you would do with your phone and get harp on the articles. Where is this specific thing? And then you're just studying grammar. You're not learning the language. You're studying rules, right? And you would never do that if you was going to teach someone football. I'm not going to take 20 minutes to explain what offsides.
And another controversial area is vocab, studying vocab. This triggers a lot of people in my experience as an online tutor. Just a quick message before we get back to the video. So Clemente and I love mixing languages together, pero tengo que confesar que cuando hablo, no hablo perfectamente en francés y español.
C'est pour ça qu'on a besoin de language exchange.
Mamma mia, ¿qué puedo hacer? Sacré bleu, monsieur. Il faut m'aider. For those of you interested in both language learning and new cultures, which go hand in hand, we've got the perfect tool for you.
Of course, how could I forget? italki.
Por supuesto. italki is an online language learning platform where you can take personalized one-to-one lessons with native speakers anytime, anywhere.
Because it's just you and the teacher, you really focus on your speaking and listening skills, as well as increase your confidence through live interactions.
With over 30,000 teachers, it can be a little bit overwhelming, but don't worry. italki has made it easy to find the right teacher for you.
You can search by lesson, category, or even by where the teacher is from. And one more thing, the best thing about italki is that you can pay for each lesson individually. There's no subscriptions, no commitments, and lessons are priced from only $5.
You also get 3 trial lessons, which are refundable if you aren't satisfied with the lesson.
I decided to learn some Italian and started taking beginner classes with Anna.
Piacere di conoscerti. Vivi in Inghilterra per lavoro?
How can I say in Italian? Prima per studiare e poi per lavorare.
Perfetto.
E avete un buon lavoro. The V is V, like in French.
Esatto, lavoro.
E siamo marito e moglie.
Moglie. Che L-I lo pronunciamo il.
E buona serata.
And buona serata. So you say that when you wish that people have like a nice rest of the evening. Ti auguro una buona serata.
Buona serata. Grazie mille.
Ciao.
Ciao, ciao. As you could see, the good thing with Italki is that you get undivided attention and instant feedback from the teacher. You can learn authentic native expressions the way you actually speak a language, not from outdated textbooks. You can even find teachers who speak your native language. So immerse yourself in a wide variety of cultures and languages without having to move overseas. So start your language learning journey now with the link below in the description. And don't forget to use your promo code EVOLVE5 to get your $5 credit when you sign up for your first class.
And this code is good for the first 50 users when you purchase $10 or more. So make sure you check out italki, links down below.
Alors, volvemos al video.
And also, working with a lot of Asians, there's, I guess, you got to respect the discipline of people for hours every day memorizing vocab. But where do you stand on this debate of, I mean, I know I've seen
you probably
videos,
have an idea, but yeah, the thing is that brute force works. It does work. That's the thing. It's true. The majority of people, especially the American culture, specifically what we're teaching, and I will keep referring to Kato Lom, but she makes fun of Americans because they want things easy. And she goes, they're lazy in this. She said, not lazy as people, like, yes, clearly they're hardworking American people, but the way that things are promoted, America can take some blame for the how to learn a language in 3 days, 5 days, etc. That's American marketing is almost second to none on earth, right? They push their ideas out to... there's kids in the middle of nowhere that barely know anything. They're going to recognize some American star based on the marketing, based on the push. And so vocab for me, brute force works, but it's not the best way to go about it. If you want to go about language learning, you need flow. And the way we teach people is that we give them an understanding of, let's take reading, right? A lot of your gains on your vocab come from reading. Most people don't understand this particularly. The amount of exposure you have to words in a movie compared to what you have in a book is night and day. All right. It's night and day. If you could just count them and watch 1 minute of a movie, you'll see that the music plays and the person walked and all this stuff. And then they might talk and then they'll have some silence. And then you're not hitting all of the vocab that you could be. A lot of gains come from reading. And this is even in your mother tongue. There have been studies as well to see that when kids, let's say, go to college, that reading that they have to do and all that time, you have words that you've never taken a flashcard. And I go hard on flashcards because it's like, yeah, well, you didn't do that in your mother tongue. It's really important, I think, that people don't count words at the beginning. However, that they have an understanding that there are high frequency words, if that makes sense. Yeah. So like there are words that are more important that you should pay attention to, that you should try to know, but I don't want you to become obsessed with that. You don't use all the words in a language. You have a core, and then you have a particular, you like football, he likes basketball, he likes baseball, your vocab's better in that, in this, and that, and that. And then you need to run down that. And they're high frequency words for the things that you care about. And so the vocab thing is, with extensive reading, what I wanted to say about that at least is extensive reading, when you read, just to read, it's great. And you're just taking it in. Intensive reading, when you go to read something that's hard and then have to translate and go back and look, is also very useful. It's just you should spend more time doing the extensive reading.
If you're a new language learner, to build on what you said, it can be quite demotivating to know that I've just spent 10 hours this week studying a bunch of words, and now suddenly I meet whatever person in front of me, and I can't string a sentence or like a useful sentence together. Whereas those high frequency words, the reward, because again, we want things quickly, right? But it does motivate you to get that dopamine that I studied this word. Now, for example, asking, have you eaten in English isn't as, I guess, common a question compared to the Asian languages. Whereas if you meet a Chinese person, ni chu fan la ma, pap mo go sayo in Korean, or kin khao liang in Thai, those are common questions you ask as soon as you meet someone, and you're going to get a really positive reaction from them. That would motivate a new learner, I think, in my opinion, far more than table, microphone, whatever, which you will need at some point. But I feel like once you're in that practical situation, whereas if you're filming a podcast and we're speaking in French, again, eventually you're just going to learn that's micro. Because you hear it every day. Whereas if you work in, I don't know, as a footballer, on your day-to-day thing, you're going to learn hors-jeu before you learn micro, probably, you know. So I think practicality, the context you're wanting to use that language in, again, is essential as well.
You're touching on the key element of the artificial immersion method, which is to tie it into you. Like, how is it not? That's my problem. I will continue to go in hard on these apps, but they don't know you. They've never met you. They met a composite of humans, and they decided this will be all right. Do you really want that? Is that what you want? Or do you want it to be about you? Like you just said, you're in the podcast, you understand. I think that if you take things like that, and you touched on another thing, is the fact that in the early days before I had a structural method, phrases were important for me to learn, but not any phrase. Phrases that I knew I would need immediately. And so so I still recommend for some people because it gives them that win. Like you talked about, how many people have tried to learn a language and failed, right? You need a couple wins, at least a few interactions that feel like, oh my God, I did something. Instead of you study table and then phone and microphone and bottle, and then you just like have these words there. What is that conversation? Hey, how you doing?
Table.
Bottle.
Phone. Do you need to call? Or like, what is up? You know? And so it's like, yeah, dude, it's got to be attached to the real world.
I think that links. I mean, there's a funny side of this, but again, another key point I saw you highlight in your other videos was about looking stupid and making mistakes. And I mean, for me, you can't master a language or anything in life without making mistakes and stumbling and whatever, making a fool of yourself at some point as well. But to link it to what you said about emotion, you probably have memories of where you made a mistake in the language and said the wrong word, but now you're never going to forget that. That's like one of the best ways to solidify. I said that was offensive. Actually, it should have been this word. So could you tell us about that side of it?
I could tell you what's even more interesting because, I constantly make mistakes. I don't have a problem with that. And I live my professional life, let's say outside of football, since I've married a lot of professions, it's very public. I'm speaking in front of people, right? In other languages that are not my mother tongue. Mistakes are going to happen no matter how much I've spent time there. Most of the time they're small and so small that I'm never going to say, that this is a bottle, right? That's stuff like that doesn't happen. But the stakes are much higher for me than they would be for someone who's just learning a language. So you don't have to worry about this. Like I actually don't care because it just turns into something. But to give you an example, I was in Milan a couple of years ago. This video is online and I'm just talking to Italian people about Italian Americans and the most beautiful cities in Italy. Like those are the two questions, basically. I was telling a couple people, I think it's several times, that it was, ho detto qualcosa, devo pensare un po' in italiano. I said, questo è il mio settesimo. I think I said settesimo. And the word is for seventh. Yep. And the word is settimo.
Okay.
Okay? I said that in the video, right?
Yeah.
Barrage of comments. What is this? You don't know that it's this? Come on. Like that. And then you have other people being like, dude, do you realize that this guy who's never saying that it's the seventh day in the country, you guys are harping on him on this? So like, there's always going to be both sides. I've been a professional athlete since I was 19. You miss a pass in front of, like, I've played in front of, I don't even know how many, like, massive stadiums. It's like, you miss some stuff. People are going to scream, get off the field. You suck. I hate you. What? Like, like all this stuff. So for me, I understand, but I do understand the other people. Like they don't want to make any mistakes, but you just have to be okay with that. Yeah. And number one, people forget it. They forget this and you will forget it too. And if once you make the mistake, you remember. I know that. And I even knew in that time, but it's just, you're moving fast and stuff like that. So mistakes happen.
It's crucial to it because even in Korea with Clem, I remember we went to a restaurant. The owner came up to us and asked how the food was. And I said to him, 정말 맛있어요. 하지만, 배불러. And Clem's like, Hakeem, don't 배불러?
배불러요.
Got to be formal, just use the formal word.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I've got Clem, that vivid memory of him telling me off, I can never forget that.
There you go.
So.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, because we were about to get kicked out. That's it.
But there is often a leniency, to, obviously you're not, you tell them you're from America. One of the most frustrating things for me in French and Spanish is the learn la, or the uno. Like,
Yeah.
I remember the word. I know that's buté. But is it une? If I have the paralysis to analysis of just, I'm not going to speak because I don't know if it's una mesa, un mesa, or like you're never going to get anywhere really.
No, one of the themes on day one of our stuff, seek to understand and seek to be understood. If you stay within this rule in communicating, I really don't care. Like if you have a problem with me and the fact that I missed that, an article here or this, that, and the other, what are we doing exactly? This is not, I wanted to convey to you that I was thirsty and that I wanted the bottle. That's all, right? And so the people that are the grammar police and those that I understand, and it can happen online. I have a tendency to believe that it might be some of them are kids, more of the comments. Yeah. I think most of the time adults are just like, I understand. Oh, that's cool. That's great job.
Yeah. When it comes to practice, as you said, nowadays you don't need to move to the country to become a polyglot, and you're proof of that. So what would be your advice when it comes to practicing for someone, let's say, who doesn't live in a city like London where you get to meet people from different countries? What do you think would be?
Online tutors are the best thing ever. The first thing for you to do is is to find quality, comprehensible input, meaning that something that you can understand at the level that you're at. That's the very first thing you have to do. We already talked about having an understanding of high frequency words. You can use ChatGPT, you can use Google, find them. And one of the things that we do within our course, we show people how they can utilize AI in a way, because AI sucks right now. It sucks. It's not good. It will be good. And there are aspects of it that are helpful. But if I was leaving my language learning capabilities up to AI, just be like, teach me how to do it. It's a disaster. All right. You can take those high frequency words, you can create stories, you can create your own comprehensible input. You said you like basketball, he likes soccer. Well, okay, great. Go in there and create that story on this, utilizing your high frequency words. And that's one way for you to also create, because now not only is it going to spit out a story for you, and there's several different, places you can do this, the voices are starting to sound better. It's not a robot voice that it's not bad now. And so now you have audio. You have audio within the stuff that you have. And so you can generate some of your comprehensible. That's what we do. And we also help people. It's ideal if you can see that all the elements are there. And it's even better if it's tactile, like that you can do it in person, that you have someone. A proper tutor is necessary. If you're saying like, how do I do this when I'm not? You got to have a proper tutor. But more comprehensible input than speaking at the beginning, I would say you do have to speak at some point. Some people are going to be different than others. That's the thing. Like there's no one way. There's no one. You have to learn yourself. And we preach this a lot, because I can't hand you who've grown up in different places with different circumstances, with different skills, the way to do. I can just give you guys a guide. I can and help you understand you. The more you understand yourself, the better it will be.
And based on personality types as well, is that I've never had a problem speaking. Whereas imagine for someone watching this who's more introverted and shy, they're going to see that and just feel like, well, we were just in different places. During my teenage years, I got to the point where I could just say what I wanted in French and Spanish, but when they would reply, I couldn't understand them. And I'm sure there are a lot of people watching this who can actually understand, because they've been watching Korean dramas, or what are they called, telenovelas, all the time. They can understand it, but then they don't know what to say. So then a one size fits all approach. Another thing you said when you referred to tutors in your videos is don't assume that the tutor should just do everything for you. You have to kind of not program the tutor, but that's the one word I'm thinking about, AI. You got to instruct the tutor. Tell them your goals. For me, I actually want to improve my listening. So I need to hear you as a tutor speaking a lot.
There you go.
Or I want to speak more. So then could you just ask me open-ended questions and then encourage me,
There you go. That's it. You're not far off from saying programming, because we like to, once again, like I said, we like things handed to us, and we just kind of like to meh, and it's easier. Thinking is hard. Thinking about yourself is even harder. Reflecting on yourself is very hard, because we have blind spots and egos that try to trick us into thinking like, you're fine. No, you're good, until you get the real world shakes you up. And so, we have a whole day dedicated to tutors. Like that's all. I have a whole day that's just there to tell you what you need to do, how you need to structure this out, because some people just go into the tutor thing and they think they'll teach me the language. I paid some money. Here, make it happen. And they put the responsibility on them. And we say, no, responsibility stays on you forever in all things, not just in language learning. And we show you that you have to, with the tutors especially, some of them have their own ways, their own egos, their own ways, and that's not going to fit for you. So you got to change that.
I mean, it's a lottery as well. The chances are that you just find a tutor and they perfectly align with all of your goals. That could happen, but the chances are very, very small. So
very slim. Could happen.
I know a big thing for you is the flow state. So how does the flow state link into language learning?
Most of the time, we're trying to get people to understand that longer periods of uninterrupted study for the passive. I'm not talking about when you're speaking to someone, but even then you want it to be locked in. You don't want to be looking at something else. And if you do that, you will watch the flow state. First, it'll be subtle, and then it'll start happening to you where you'll notice time's going by and you're just locked in, right? And we've forgotten so much about that. When I was growing up, you had flow state all the time. There was nothing to distract you from what you were doing, the present moment.
And then at university, having the routine of even speaking classes. I remember 11 a.m., we would sit in a room and there would be just 3 or 4 other students and the teacher. And they would say, right now, uninterrupted debate. Half of the room agrees that whatever should be illegal. Half of the room believes that it should be legal. Fight, debate. And in that moment, there were no phones. You weren't really allowed to make notes because that was the speaking class. Every week doing those classes forces you into flow, because I think once you distract your brain away from, okay, I'm speaking in French, and you get to know, I'm just passionate. I want to win this debate. Like same in football as well. You're using those words in a sport of, I did Muay Thai. So then you're training with the trainer and he's saying to me like isip, which means 20 punches, whatever. I'm not thinking, I'm practicing Thai right now. I'm in the moment. I'm in the flow state, but then actually you're using those words and they start getting integrated into it. And you actually forget you're studying, because that's the fun element. If you're speaking about something you're passionate about, extra win, extra double bonus, know.
Totally. Yeah, you turn off your brain though. I mean, because you had a goal, which was to just either be in flow and just study or just do the actions that you're doing, right? And so any words that it's just conveying of a message. Once again, seek to understand and seek to be understood. Someone's conveying a message to me. This is what I want to do. I'm arguing about this debate. I just want to tell them this thing sucks, you know, and your thing is wrong and I'm right. And once it becomes about that, you turn off the analysis paralysis. You stop thinking about whether it's this article or that article. You try to get what you're saying to be understood. You try to convey a message. And that is the stage at the beginning. It could be that first month to 3 months. It could be 6 months. It could be a year, right? Before you then have to then go, okay, they keep in Croatian and Russian, they have these padisha. There are these things at the end. So things change. The accusative case, the genitive case, all these things, endings change. It's a nightmare. Trying to study it as like if you were trying to study, no, it has to be a later thing. You have to first learn some general basis before they go, okay, by the way, the ending changes here. You're being understood, but like, hey, this is what's changing and this is why. So you can start to notice that. And then you stick, one thing I do definitely recommend for people that like to study, because some people love to study grammar and they can. It's just the turnaround is going to be different than somebody who's doing the comprehensible input way, meaning that you may not speak, don't expect to speak immediately, but then when it does, and I made that mistake when I was doing German. I studied a lot of grammar because I heard that the grammar was hard in German, which it is difficult, you know? So I spent a lot of time there and less time speaking and engaging with the language. But when I went back, started doing it, I can still remember, you know, some of these weird rules, right? And so it happens, and people know Krashen's work. I know that people bash him also for certain other things. But one thing he definitely got right is when you're writing, you have the time to go, okay, also bei mir nach Zeit von zu, okay, das ist Dativ, then I can, okay, that's this. When you're speaking, you do not have that time. You cannot expect to have that same level, but they're different approaches. You just have to know when the right time for grammar is for you, and then you have to stay on one grammar point for a small period of time. I'm not saying a year studying the dative case. This week and this time in my attention is on this. Now, next week, I'll do the accusative, but now it's just this.
I still remember those moments of like memorizing in Spanish the si fuera el presidente, el gobierno sería muy diferente. Like if I were this, it would be, and
subjunctive, I think.
Yeah, there is going to be some use for it, but if you only memorize those without the rest, it's tough. But I think another huge elephant in the room, and I guess a thing not always spoken about, is that it doesn't matter how good, to some people, let's say the street interviews and those kind of like win moments we've had, doesn't matter how good even your language skills and competency, proficiency of the language are, if your accent's not that good. I've found that just from in Korean, 안녕하세요, 감사합니다, Thai, กินแล้ว สวัสดีครับ กินข้าวหรือยัง I don't actually speak much of those languages, but the accent is what I feel like provides a lot of warmth to people. You, I've seen on the street interviews, have that ability. Where did that come from? Because I feel like no matter how much we study those things, if you can't mirror that pronunciation, and not just pronunciation, if you can't mirror the accent and the intonation, you don't always get that same kind of reinforcement. The love.
There is a, you're lucky. People tend to love the French accent where it leaves its traces on other languages. There are some languages that feel okay, but yes, it's really bad when you hear hablo español, soy americano, soy de Kansas City. It's like, oh God, it sounds...
honestly, for me, this doesn't sound good at all. I don't understand why.
We still don't think in England it's romantic, you know?
He's French, though.
What's romantic about it?
I mean, you're right. You're right. There's some cool things that I've actually really been kind of looking at how I've done that and what else I do, because I don't like it when I am hearing. I'm okay with it, and I'm okay never having 100% perfect accent in any language. Whatever, I don't care. But sometimes it's hard for you to see how that person is making that word, because, you know, there's some interesting things that happen when we grow up learning a language. Studies show that we have the potential as babies to speak anything. You know, if I take you to France, you're gonna pick that up. If I take you to whatever, to Pakistan, Urdu, right? But what happens as we focus, as we specialize in that, we start to lose the ability to make some people can go, some people cannot do, I have friends that can't do it, and so they can't roll their R's. And so what will help you is also not just hearing, where are you putting your tongue when you go, you probably never thought about it if you can do it. But if you want to learn sometimes you'll see that their tongue is here, that their mouth is here, Je parle français. je parle français. Ouais, t'es bûche. Ouais, il est comme ça quand tu parles. The mouth doesn't open as much, right? It's funny. I have French friends as well. They said that in their American class, they were like, you need to open your mouth if you're going to speak like an American. We blah.
Because we're used to complaining. That's why we
yeah. So it's like that. So yeah, for the accent stuff like that, you have to mimic also. Whatever, you can choose accents, places, this, that, and the other. You know, my Spanish, if I'm with my friends in America, a lot of Mexican accents like this, watching an Argentinian series, you watch that stuff, you mimic, you do this. There's another interesting guy, Alexander Arguelles. You know, there's a big issue in the linguist, let's say, world, because he got his PhD, and all of his colleagues, he was like, you guys all study languages? None of you speak. You guys are all doing studies and writing papers about how people should do that, but none of you speak. And so he got his PhD, you know, in order because it was important and, you know, the whole thing. He did it, but like he couldn't wait till he was done so he could do the thing and not live in theory. That's a huge part of like, so if you are trying to fix your accent, mimic, right? Watch, listen, say it back, see what they're doing. If you can't say it properly, look at how they're, ask them, what is going on with your tongue? What's going on? Watch. I guarantee you with a few days of care for that, you will change. It seems like you can't, but you can. You just are not focusing on it. You have too much to worry about. The article, the this, the that, what word is it? You can change your accent. It can be changed. There's really no reason. It might not be perfect, but it's possible.
I think you got to just really take that critical approach to yourself in terms of feedback. And that's what helped me really, is having someone, as we say, savage your accent. And it took me a long time, even after studying French and Spanish. Suddenly I was in Thailand and they have tones. That took me, I guess, a year or two before I could actually start comfortably mimicking it. You know, there was a lot of sawadee cup, madai. No, madai. It's like, I would get so frustrated. I'm saying the same thing, you know, but then again, over and over again, one day I could just do it.
Right.
For a long time, I couldn't. I didn't like plan that day was the day I could do it. But it came after so much agony, let's say, of going through that constant correction process. And that's it. You can be an academic, but if you're not practicing, I encourage people to sing in the language because you've got intonation. And I often find that when I coach people who love karaoke or have a musical background, their ability to adapt their intonation is a lot better than the average person, just because they're already conscious about it. So you got to dedicate separate time. If you do want to improve your accent, there's nothing wrong with having a different accent, of course. But if you do want to mimic an accent better, I often say make time for that as well. Because you don't ever get successful at something often by accident. It's got to be like, okay, in the shower, in the street, I've got my headphones in, I'm going to sing this Spanish song. I might look like a fool walking down, or Korean, whatever song it is. For me, it's been the only way of like constant obsession with the accent as well, not only just on the other aspects. So
that's another huge point, though. The fact that number one, you have to make look stupid, but I still do this, but less so because I have headphones now. But back in the day, I would take a cell phone and I would talk in another language to myself, mainly because I'm an introvert. And people assume that I'm extremely extroverted because they see me in several different places in media, but I love to read, I want to study, I like to meditate, I prefer to be alone. But yeah, you're not kidding. Like you can walk down the street or talk, you know, and repeat stuff to yourself. I mean, nowadays people have earpods. Like if you see someone talking to themselves on the street 20 years ago, they would be crazy. Now it's just, you can't see their AirPods, right? And so it's like not that big of a deal. You have all these places, like I said before, no excuses, you know, like you should just try. Like it's so crazy what you can do if you sit down and you're not so worried about the end goal. Like you said, dedicate a little time to it and just what happened. And one day comes out of you and you're just like, how did I do that? Well, you just moved towards it, you know? That's it.
People see it's like what they call it, the iceberg analogy, where like in that one moment, it seemed instant, but people don't see the hundreds, if not thousands of hours before that, I guess, scoring a goal as well, right?
Same.
How long does it take you kick the ball, it's in the net. Like 1 second.
Yeah.
Countless hours.
Well, all the training as well. That's the other thing. I mean, now we have an obsession of seeing the journey, which I'm kind of against, obviously, on our football channel where we're teaching kids, you know, what it's like to actually be a pro, you know, what you need to do, or how you need to train. You've got kids nowadays wanting to record their day one. And I understand, I'm not ignorant to the idea there. Record day one and they want to, you know, show their journey on day. But what ends up happening just like the phone analogy, they get obsessed about the content and how it looks. And they're at training trying to see what their angle is. And you're all this. And before you know it, you're making content instead of training. You're more concerned about how that is. And in my time, obviously there was no phones at training when I was 14, 13, whatever. There was just nothing there. You go to training and that's it. You're there. If someone misses it, I think the amount of goals and things, I don't know how many Instagram followers I would have had at 14 with some of the goals I scored on against kids who can't really play. There's a big difference between that. And that I think translates over to language learning as well, which is just, guys, like the end goal is a beautiful thing and it's wonderful. Don't worry about this journey, this stuff. Just enjoy every single aspect of this journey part. You'll get to the part where your words will come out as long as you're focusing on the correct things. You can go off. I don't want people to think that there aren't bad things and ways to waste time. I have a friend, Stefan Thyron, he learned Swedish. He's an American guy. He spent 4 or 5 hours every day doing Duolingo before he moved to Sweden. When he got to Sweden, he was a teacher and he was like, oh my God, I don't speak Swedish. After all that time, he was like, oh my God. But it was great because he was with kids. They don't have as much of an interaction or they don't have a high level vocab, right? And so it was there that he actually picked up a lot of his Swedish. We've done some cool videos together where he speaks Swedish and I speak Danish, or then my Swedish after I was there for a little bit of time. And he was the same. Now he's a Swedish citizen, and he just kind of enjoyed the journey. Poof. It's just, you do have to have discipline. You do have to stay. You have to show up every day. That's one thing I don't think we've touched on. You could spend an hour a day. That would be great. Even on those days that you can't, don't just throw the whole thing away. Take the 15 minutes. It's not lost. It'd be like just you working out. Like really, like if you could do 100 push-ups in 5 minutes, should you still do it? Or should you be like, I can't go to the gym today, so I'm not going to do anything? Really? You can do something. And so that's the same for language learning every day. The consistency is what matters.
I mean, there's a key point you mentioned about sometimes the stronger you affirm yourself, the more you've got to defend. And I've told everyone, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be the best. My French is going to be amazing. My Spanish is going to be amazing. Watch me. The time you spend speaking about it, and that links to social media, right? If I told everyone, I'm going to build a podcast, watch this podcast, I'm going to be whatever it is, that energy itself is not really motivating as well because it feels competitive. Whereas this is something beautiful that should be your own personal journey. Yeah, you can share it and encourage people. But I find with social media, it's a double-edged sword because it can become a career. You can make money from it, but that takes a lot of time as well.
For sure.
Building all of that time, the reason you probably became pro is that at 14, you weren't spending 20 hours a week on Instagram.
That's the point. That's the point, guys. Yeah, I didn't do any of that.
After you've made it, then you can share those gains with people. So I think that's a great message.
Yeah. And the other thing with telling people about it, it's good when you have some sort of social pressure. I mean, there's some great studies to understand that if you tell maybe one person who you trust and respect, hey, I'm going to learn Spanish. That friend, after 2 months, can be like, dude, you haven't even bought a book. Like, what are you? That's great. But the social media aspect of it is you're looking for that reward without having done something. That's what the kid is actually looking for. He's looking for you to cheer me on and get all the respect of having done something without actually doing it. And that's the problem. So that's why I don't recommend work in silence. We'll all cheer you on once you've done it. It's going to be great. The whole social media, everyone's going to love how you can juggle the ball and speak the language when you do it. If you don't need to tell everyone necessarily that because you're getting the reward. It's not good. It's really not good for your ego.
Yeah, I think much better to find a Spanish speaking friend and just get obsessed.
There you go.
With them, take those wins, and they're going to be proud of you when you go out into the real world and do what you can do. So yeah.
Could we know some of the highlights of your language learning experiences?
I mean, there's too many. I mean, some of the things that are cool is when you really need it. Now what I do, I run around, I do interviews for, some of these major football and sports companies, Nike, Adidas, and et cetera. And so we're interviewing stars, from former legends. Like I just did Raul Gonzalez, Raul. Yeah. I don't think that video's out. Probably it may be out soon here in a second. Right. He feels more comfortable in Spanish, obviously. Right. And there's several, I did Sergio Ramos, did Sergio Ramos. He'd rather speak Spanish. And there's several times like that where the player feels more comfortable. And so normally what they'll do is have a translator. Well, that's a boring interview. Like imagine if you guys had to have someone I talk and then we wait for this guy over here to just tell you what I said. It's like, come on. Yeah. Those are boring, or subtitles or whatever. And so a lot of times they'll just say, okay, just do it. Just do it in that language. The real challenge will be when I try and do it in a language I don't really speak, like Portuguese. Like we can get by, right? You know some Spanish, you know Italian, you can get by. But if they asked me to give an interview, I would do it just for the challenge, you know? But stuff like that's going to come up, I have no doubt.
Portuñol, is that what they call it? When you mix
it up.
Spanish and Portuguese. I mean, they're cousins, I always say.
Yeah.
Latin-based languages, Italian, French, Spanish. If you say enough words over and over again, you're probably going to understand
there you go.
something.
Yeah, totally.
Will, it's been an amazing opportunity to hear all of these different insights into why people should learn a language, how they can learn a language, and the passion behind that. In your case, do you have any final messages for anyone watching this video?
Oh, man, you know, it's always funny when I get these at the end. There's so much I want to tell people, but at the end of the day, I want to bring it back to seek to understand and seek to be understood as a motto for how you go about your language learning. Because if you can do that, that has layers, right? It's not just in the language learning, but that's also people to people, right? If I try to understand you and your language and your culture and your stuff, like I told you, you're going to go on the street, you're going to see this guy's from Japan, you're going to say something to him, he's going to be like, what is going on? You have this general human connection and understanding. So just enjoy every aspect of your language learning and forget all the rest. It's not important. Your inner goal matters. Your inner world, your inner state, that's what matters in your language learning ability and your journey, and that's it. So that's all I would say.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Antes de terminar, no sé si conoces algo en gallego.
En gallego no los. No creo.
Bueno, a ver, ¿tienes fame?
Si tengo hambre.
Sí.
Como italiano, ¿no? Fame.
Fame.
Yeah.
Wow. That's really cool.
Mais le français que tu as appris, ça vient d'où, en fait? C'est plutôt marocain ou c'est...
Non. En fait, j'ai passé beaucoup de temps en France.
OK.
Avant. En Paris. J'ai fait des entretiens avec des joueurs en français. Alors, moi, je dirais, je sais pas, l'accent français. C'est pas le québécois.
Ouais.
Tu peux le faire?
Non. As-tu déjà rencontré des créoles en France?
Des créoles? Non, en France, non. Mais on a des endroits aux États-Unis, non? Louisiana.
C'est un peu différent.
Haitian créole? Non?
C'est un peu comme ça. En fait, il y a des Haïtiens, il y a des Réunionnais. So I lived on Reunion Island.
Right.
So they're French. It's an overseas territory. But like how there's Jamaican patois or pidgin English.
Yeah.
Hafana, you know, that kind of Nigerian English. The Creoles, they have their own language and identity. Okay. So maybe we can teach you a couple phrases.
There you go.
So if you meet someone from Reunion Island, they will say to you, instead of like, comment ça va? They'll say, comment il est?
Comment il est?
Comment il est?
Okay.
And so the
réponse?
La réponse est, les là.
Les là. That's cool.
Comment il est?
Oh, les là.
Ah, parfait.
Okay. Yeah, c'est parfait.
Et en plus, il y a, instead of like, tu fais quoi? It also means like, how are you? They say, coiffé.
Coiffé.
Quoi? Les gens, like, quoi? Coiffé.
Wow.
So, it's, mélange. L'accent change un peu. Quand les Réunionnais, comme ils causent en créole réunionnais, ça ressemble au français. Mais c'est un peu différent. Par exemple, what do you want to eat? You'd say, comme ça, vous allez manger.
Complètement différent.
L'accent.
C'est plus différent.
So,
c'est cool.
Change a lot. Instead of like, les autres, to say like vous, they say zot.
Zot. That's cool.
Zot.
That's cool.
Aujourd'hui, it comes zordi.
Zordi.
Zordi nous fait quoi?
Okay.
One of my favorites to end on is in Mauritian Creole. It's an island right next to Reunion Island.
Yeah.
They have a word for, maybe you can guess the animal. Court pas.
Cool.
So
doesn't run?
So what animal doesn't run?
Fish. Oh, nope. that's a good guess.
It's not fish.
That's a great guess.
But c'est un animal qui marche très lentement.
Snail? Tortue.
Exactement.
It's a snail.
Court pas. Escargot, court pas. Because it doesn't run. Court pas.
Okay.
So, but Will, again, thank you so much.
Thank you
Merci
very much.
mille fois. Gracias.
De rien. De nada.
Spasiba. Tak.
Tak. Yeah, de vaselit.
How in Croatian do you say?
Hvala.
Fa?
It's spelled H-V-A-L-A. Hvala. Yeah.
Hvala.
Great. Grazie.
Grazie mille.
Tak in both of the Swedish languages. Yeah. Spasiba. Yeah. That's it. No problem. No worries.
So make sure you check out Will on Goluremi Languages. He's on YouTube and all other social platforms. Links are going to be in the description below. And if you've taken any value from this content, we'd really appreciate if you subscribe. And in the comments, let us know which languages do you speak and how did you learn them? Any tips or any things you disagree with as well. We want to know everything. But until next time, thank you very much and à bientôt.